Welcome. Well, welcome back, Mr. Prime Minister. We got a lot to talk about. I think we should get to it, but the floor is yours.
Mr. President, we've known each other for 40 years, and you've known every Israeli Prime Minister for 50 years, from Golda Meir. So from a proud Jewish Zionist to a proud Irish-American Zionist, I want to thank you for 50 years of public service and 50 years of support for the State of Israel. And I look forward to discussing with you today and working with you in the months ahead on the great issues before us.
I look forward to it as well. By the way, that first meeting with Prime Minister Golda Meir, and she had an assistant sitting next to me, a guy named Rabin. That's how far back it goes. I was only 12 then. But anyway, thank you all for being here.
Between 1939 and 1945, the Nazis killed about 6 million Jews and millions of other civilians throughout Europe. These are some who were slaughtered in the Holocaust. A generation lost forever. Jews are the people of the Hebrew Bible who lived in a land now known as Israel. They believe that there is only one God. Christianity emerged from Judaism. Jesus of Nazareth was a Jew who preached a singular religious message. The first Christians were Jews who prayed in Hebrew and observed the customs and religious rituals of Judaism. The Last Supper was a Jewish religious meal, probably at Passover. Jesus was put to death at the hands of Roman authorities under Pontius Pilate in Judea, but the gospel accounts were interpreted as blaming all Jews for the crucifixion. To his followers, Jesus was the Christ, the Messiah, his death, sacrificial atonement. Most Jews believed the Messiah had not yet come. Redemption was not at hand. Soon after the crucifixion, Roman armies destroyed the temple in Jerusalem. Jews were exiled and scattered to live as a dispersed minority. By the 5th century, Christianity had become the dominant religion in the Roman Empire. The early Christian church portrayed Jews as unwilling to accept the word of God. Illuminations showed Satan binding the eyes of the Jews. Some church leaders intensified the charge, condemning Jews as agents of the devil and murderers of God. The accusation was not renounced until the 1960s, when the Second Vatican Council officially repudiated the ancient charge that Jews had murdered Christ. For centuries, state and church laws restricted Jews, preventing them from owning land and holding public office. Guilds excluded Jews from most occupations, forcing them into pursuits like moneylending, trade, commerce. Excluded from Christian society, Jews maintained their religious and social customs. In 1095, Pope Urban II called for the liberation of Jerusalem. Christian crusaders set off to free the Holy Land from the Muslims. On the way, they slaughtered thousands of Jews. Throughout the Middle Ages, Christians persecuted Jews. Portrayed as alien, Jews were regarded as usurers. It was said Jews poisoned the wells of Europe, causing the Black Plague. Illustrations depicted Jews as the devil, with horns and cloven feet, and showed them using the blood of Christian children in ritual sacrifices. These lies came to be taken as truth. But where they were needed, Jews were tolerated. When they were allowed to participate in the larger society, Jews thrived. In many places, secular and religious states forced Jews into segregated districts later called ghettos. England, France, Spain, Portugal, and many German states expelled masses of Jews, most of whom migrated eastward, taking with them their religious convictions and traditions. In 1517, Martin Luther attacked the Pope and corruption within his own Roman Catholic Church, beginning the Protestant Reformation. The young Luther hoped that tolerance would persuade Jews to convert. But when Jews adhered to their own religious beliefs and refused to join his new Reformed Church, Luther's disappointment turned to hatred. What then shall we Christians do with this rejected and condemned people, the Jews? Their synagogues should be set on fire, and what does not burn must be covered over with earth, so that no man will ever see stone or cinder of them again. Their houses also should be razed and destroyed. All their prayer books should be taken from them. The Protestant Reformation brought no end to the anti-Jewish tradition of Christianity. With the 18th century Enlightenment's emphasis on reason, the domination of the Church diminished. Some Enlightenment thinkers called for full rights for Jews, but only on the condition that they discard their religious customs. Others blamed Judaism as the source of irrational religious faith. Even though many Jews assimilated socially and culturally, prejudice did not disappear. In France in 1894, Captain Alfred Dreyfus, the only Jewish member of the French Army's general staff, was convicted of passing military secrets to Germany. Later, proof of forgery confirmed his innocence, but Dreyfus remained the victim of a cover-up to divert attention from army corruption. A century after the French Revolution proclaimed liberty, equality, and fraternity, giving Jews their freedom, frenzied mobs in the streets of Paris chanted, "Death to the Jews." Religious discrimination had gradually changed into a thriving secular, political, and social anti-Semitism. Nevertheless, freed from some restrictions, many Jews entered the Christian world and became prominent citizens. Then, around 1900, a new lie was promoted, that Jews conspired to dominate the world using their money and intelligence to manipulate trusting Christians. Russian secret police forged a document to support the story of a takeover plot supposedly authored by a conference of Jewish leaders. A proven forgery, the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, was nevertheless translated into every major language and distributed worldwide. It is circulated even today, despite indisputable proof that it is a fake. To divert popular discontent at appalling living conditions and autocratic control, Russian authorities encouraged anti-Semitic violence. Jews were blamed for the assassination of Tsar Alexander II in 1881. Pogroms, murderous rampages against Jews, erupted in Russia many times during the next 3 decades. The second half of the 19th century saw the emergence of yet another kind of anti-Semitism. At its core was the theory that Jews were not merely a religious group, but a separate race, Semites. set apart because of genetically inherited characteristics. Anti-Semites believed racial characteristics could not be overcome by assimilation or even conversion. Jews were said to be dangerous and threatening because of their, quote, Jewish blood. Anti-Semitic racism united pseudo-scientific theories with centuries-old anti-Jewish stereotypes. These ideas gained wide acceptance. The devastation of World War I, the demeaning peace of Versailles, the hyperinflation of the 1920s and the Depression of 1929 fueled mass discontent. The presence of Jews in German cultural, economic, and political life made them convenient scapegoats for Germany's misfortunes. Enter Adolf Hitler. Hitler viewed world history as a racial struggle for survival of the fittest. He saw Jews as the source of all evil: disease, social injustice, cultural decline, capitalism, and all forms of Marxism, especially communism. Anti-Semitism would become the predominant ideology of the Third Reich.
Zu einem Kampfziel erhoben, geloblich diese Erscheinung aus dem deutschen Leben des
Nazi racism victimized many groups of people, but it was against the Jews that the Nazi state mobilized all its resources for terror. After the Nazi takeover of power, anti-Jewish measures were put into effect one after another. Jewish businesses were boycotted, then seized. Jews were defined, separated from non-Jews. Jews were excluded from professions and studies. Jewish children were barred from schools. Jews were subjected to public humiliation. The changes, whether gradual or sudden, were incomprehensible. Few could imagine what would happen, even Jews. The Nazis took anti-Semitism to an unprecedented level of violence. Genocide, the systematic murder of millions of people deemed inferior. Six million Jews. These are some of them.
Good morning, John. I don't think this is about USAID. You and I both know that that agency does lots of amazing work. It is a very cheap way to keep the world more stable and more diseases controlled and fewer people suffering, but I don't think that's like the core issue here. The core issue is the extent to which the Constitution matters anymore. This country is founded on the idea that separate branches share power. And while it is frustrating that a narrow congressional majority seems to have happily given up that power, at least temporarily, it can't actually do that. It isn't allowed to give its power to the president because the separation of powers is the whole idea that the nation is based on. USAID was created by a law passed by Congress. It is funded by laws passed by Congress. We all learn in elementary school that Congress has the power of the purse. Congress decides how almost all money in America is spent, not the president. The president unilaterally dissolving USAID is illegal. He could have worked with Congress to get them to pass a law to dissolve USAID, which would be the legal way to have it no longer exist, but he did not do that. This isn't a violation of a law that was passed by Congress. It's not even a violation of an amendment to the Constitution. It's in Article 1. Congress passes laws to determine how money is spent. And if the president can just walk in and dismantle the work of Congress, that isn't just a refutation of the founding document of the country. It's a logistical nightmare. It calls into question why Congress exists at all. You can't run a country if everything is burned down and started fresh every 4 years, obviously. But Trump, or Elon Musk, or whoever, seems to want to test the limits of this country. And so they are testing those limits. I don't know if USAID is like a good first target for that because it's not something that immediately affects very many Americans, so it doesn't have a ton of people here to defend it. But again, I don't think this is about USAID. It's about whether or not the president suddenly has a bunch of unconstitutional powers, and I would simply like to make the case that he obviously does not. A press release from the White House recently referred to Donald Trump, quote, signing an executive order into law. I know this is like nuts and bolts, boring schoolhouse rock civics, but that's not how laws get made, and if we don't remember that, the country is going to stop working. That's why we had Schoolhouse Rock, so that when people try to do it a different way and then the courts tell them that they're wrong, we all agree with the courts. I've been thinking this whole week about a line from Ezra Klein's recent essay on Trump's first few weeks back in office, which is also a YouTube video that's good. You should watch it. I'll link in the description. But the line was, Trump is acting like a king because he is too weak to govern like a president. In the essay, the case for Trump being a legislatively weak president is made pretty clear. The narrowest majority in the House since there have been 50 states, a narrow margin in Congress. He has a higher disapproval rating than any incoming president since we started doing polling. And so perhaps, instead of trying to create durable change, he's governing largely through executive order and also through other untested, probably illegal unilateral actions. And there are really three ways, I think, to see this. First, if you're super sympathetic to Trump, you might see it as the United States has become so corrupt, is so broken, that we have to stop caring about the Constitution, maybe just for a little bit. We have to let the world's richest man into the treasury so that he can stop payments at his whim. We have to remove security professionals for obeying the law. We have to say that it's okay for the president to take the power of the purse away from Congress, to let him defund whichever parts of the government he would like to defund, because as he has always said, he alone can fix this. Second, perhaps there's like a flood the zone tactic going on. He's just trying to keep everyone distracted and confused and to try everything as fast as he can to occupy the press and the courts and the public and to just see what sticks. Or third, perhaps he is doing this because he wants to change things, but he knows that trying to pass legislation when he has narrow majorities in the House and Senate would likely fail, and he hates the idea of failing. And those second two do look more like the reality at the moment. Already lots of Trump's executive orders have done nothing but be news stories for a moment before getting blocked as obviously unconstitutional. But the reality is there's two ways of seeing this. Either it is okay to ignore the Constitution when your side is doing it, or this is the unacceptable action of people who are not strong enough, either politically or in character, to actually govern. So the question becomes, if you don't like that, then how do you make it not happen? And the big way is to simply not believe them when they say that they are more powerful than the Constitution. The reason the Constitution is more powerful than Elon Musk or Donald Trump isn't just the legacy of this nation or the laws it is bound to uphold. It's that the Constitution is a good document that we collectively believe in. That separation of powers isn't something that somebody thought would be a fun thing to try out. It's a very good idea. It's a good idea that was created by people who had been living under a king and didn't want to do that anymore. And the result of that hard work, that hard thought, and the creation of that good document was America. And the times when we have violated those principles are real and they exist and they are shameful, and we don't want to be living through one of those times. We do not want to be part of that kind of shame. And I do think that the law will stand, and I hope that the American people will say, yes, that was the correct thing to have happen. Not just, oh, Trump tried to do this and then the courts blocked him. No, Trump tried to do this, the court said it was unconstitutional, and I don't like any president as much as I like America. Already multiple lawsuits have been filed outlining why shutting down USAID is illegal. Trump fans might see that as the deep state fighting back, but what it actually is people saying that there is a reason why we have laws. And it isn't just to tell you what you can and can't do. It's to uphold the structures that have upheld this nation for 250 years. John, I'll see you on Tuesday.